We're back on our team top prospects grind here with the Cleveland Guardians farm system. Of course, I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen. And as always, this is the call-up. There is a call-up that we need to talk about, but we want to give it a lot more time. James Wood, reportedly, getting the call-up to the big leagues. Should debut Monday, Jack? Is that what the report was?
Should debut Monday,
right?
Yeah, should debut Monday at home. Grant Paulson was first. Andrew Golden followed up. Washington's in Tampa this weekend, so he's not going to Tampa, but he's going to DC. He's playing Indianapolis right now in Rochester. Like, I don't know how they're going to do this. Like, is he just going to fly to DC and kind of hang out over the weekend and like, hey, get your feet wet, go find an apartment because you're here for a long time. And he'll debut on Monday.
Very excited to get deeper into that. We will for Monday's episode, and we'll talk all about, just kind of how he fits in and just, I guess, some of the things that I know it's good timing as well, where you just got to see him, and not in person, but watching those games, kind of just being able to see him do everything, the way he's going out in the field, just watching maybe with a little bit more of a fine tooth comb there, I think, just to really be able to dissect every little thing with a guy that's now going to get up to the big league. So excited to talk about that and kind of the way he goes about his business and what you saw there. We'll do that on Monday. We're here to talk about the Cleveland Guardians farm system, which as always is deep. And we talk about the themes of farm systems, and sometimes it's a little bit of a reach, or sometimes it's super niche. If I find a theme like the Rockies and their funky lefties, or whatever it may be with different systems, some, a lot of their right-handed pitchers throw cutters. Like we'll find those things. But with the Guardians, I think anybody, you don't have to dig too deep to figure out what those themes are. We talk about the pitchability guys all the time, but the more overwhelming theme of this Guardian system is middle infielders, switch hitters. And I mean, we're going to sound like a broken record. And I think the important thing going into this, Jack, is like, we should probably focus on how each of these switch hitting middle infield types differentiates themselves from the one before them. If we're talking about the ranking side of it, because it is going to get redundant. Like there is going to be a lot of, good plate discipline, good bat to ball skills. I don't know if there's enough power. He can move around the diamond a little bit. The differentiators with each of these guys are going to be defensive value. Some of these guys can't really play a shortstop. Others can. How much power is in there? Plate discipline. So there are nuances that we're going to talk about and differentiate. But like, if it sounds like we're saying the same thing about the same guys or different guys, it's because the Guardians have literally carbon copies of guys for the most part.
Yeah, I think 2021 was probably when it hit its fever pitch, where everybody was a bat to ball center fielder or a bat to ball middle infielder. And for every, Tena and Angel Martinez that we talked about, there was a Brian Rocchio and an Aaron Bracho before that. Like there have been so many of these guys. And then center field, like Juan's the gold standard. But man, like Will Brennan fell into that fold as well. And there were a couple of guys that I entertained in the names to watch that are pretty much like Will Brennan adjacents right now, man. Like a Petey Halpin. Like that's a guy, Tommy Hawk, who they just drafted out of Wake Forest.
Tommy Hawk is 100% cut from that cloth.
He's peak Guardian, man. And then like the pitchability college arm, like, we'll talk about Doug Nikhazy here in a moment, but like Tommy Mace was a Guardians draft pick. And like there are a bunch of guys like that where it's like, oh yeah, your favorite college player is in the Cleveland Guardians organization.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, your favorite switch hitting middle infielder is in the Cleveland Guardians organization now.
100%. And we'll jump right into those names to watch because I know like there's a lot, and there's probably maybe even a couple that we didn't name. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of players in this system that are worth watching. So if there's a few others, let us know in the YouTube comments. I'll reply back with my thoughts on them as well. From the Call Up YouTube account and kind of share that. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, follow along with us on the video. If you're listening, the article, as always, is linked in the episode description. Jack, take us away.
A couple of guys that I felt bad leaving off of the names to watch were Tommy Hawk, for sure, and then Eric Sabrowski, who is a left-handed reliever that's up in triple at this point. This guy was dominating the AA level. He's got one of the better curveballs that I've seen in a bullpen. The fastball is not closer material, I don't think. So, like, there are a couple guys that I think could be legit closers if everything works according to plan in the names to watch. Sabrowski is like, hey, you see what Hunter Gaddis is doing right now. that's what Sobrowski can do at his best. And I just don't know if that was willing to crack it. But if we were doing a top 30, like Eric Sobrowski is certainly in that top 30.
One other too, real quick, Justin Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
I really like what he's capable of doing, but unfortunately injured. We knew that right out of the draft, and then was supposed to come back early this year and another injury, and they haven't really said what. I mean, it's arm related, but we don't really know what, and we haven't seen him pitch for multiple years now. Super talented, always kind of wait and want to see, but it's now kind of similar to the Espino thing where it's like you just got to wait and see until he's on the mound again. There's not much to talk about. So if some are wondering on Justin Campbell, like it's kind of the same thing there.
Yeah, but we'll start with Tugboat, everybody's favorite. Yeah. Tugboat is in high A at this point. He made his pro debut last year. He struck out the side in order. And so far this year, it's 103 punch outs, 15 walks in 63 and a third innings between low A and high A. So appreciate Tugboat. I know he's only 90, but like it's high carry 90, and for some reason he's getting whiff out the ass in low A and high A. And the reality is, man, like he's a 21-year-old starting pitcher that dominated low A and is really carving through high A right now, not to the level that he was dominating low A, but I mean, this guy's going to get to double at some point this year, and we'll see what happens. And with the way that his first 3 months of the year have gone, how can he not be a name to watch?
100%. And if some are wondering why is he not like 15, he's got to probably do a little bit more at the double A level. Like we got to see him do it at the double A level, I should say, or even just do this longer at the high A level. And also like the fastball is great. He's just got that ride and run and a funky release that just seems to have hitters, stifled. But the slider and changeup both, combining for less than a 50% strike rate over pretty much most of the season. So that's something that like, okay, there's a lot of fastball dependence here and it's a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. So it can come together, no doubt about it, especially if those secondaries develop. They flash like they're good pitches. He just hasn't commanded them that great yet. So just kind of something to watch there with him.
Yeah. Next guy is Khalil Watson. And Khalil Watson, former 16th overall pick of the Marlins, he fell out of their favor because of makeup issues. And, that was clear as day, fringy hit tool. And that might be like putting it lightly. But like he can run into some balls. He can hit them incredibly hard. And he can hold his own on, in the middle of the infield, like whether it be short or second base. He's got tools. Like the question is he going to mature as a human being? That's why the Marlins moved off of him. He's too talented to not be a name to watch in the Guardian system.
Yeah, he's still only 21 too. So he's going to be 21 all year long. He turned 21 right in the beginning of the season. So hopefully, as you said, like things start to come together for him in all aspects. And they're playing him in center and kind of all over now too. So maybe this super utility type. He's too talented to ignore, as you said. But it's going to need to start happening sooner rather than later on the field as well.
Yeah. Andrew Walters is the next guy. And Andrew Walters is one of the best college relievers in recent memory. Like this is Kevin Kopps level type domination. And Walters last 3 years at Miami, a 1.41 ERA, was punching out, I think 15 or 16 per 9, 170 and 102 innings. The fastball can run up to the mid to high 90s. He will sit mid 90s, run it up to the high 90s. He throws it. Do you have the fastball percentage in front of you? Like it's all fastball.
65%.
So it's 65% heater. It's not 102 like Joyce. I worry about 97 if you're throwing it 65% of the time. I also saw him sail a couple to the backstop in Indy. And like, I don't know if that's him consistently, but at the end of the day, this guy's a strikeout artist. Is he walking a lot of guys? Sure. Is he punching out everybody? He's also doing that. He has the makings if he can, find that slider and have it tick up and, he turns into 60% heater or 55% heater and he's mixing that slider in too. This guy, like he does have closer potential and there's a reason he was a top 70 pick in the draft last year.
No doubt. And it's good characteristics to the fastball too. So like when you're 97 with those characteristics, like he can definitely bully guys with that. As you said, it's just a little bit more slider consistency is going to be important. He has a splitter he'll experiment with. And when he throws it near the plate, it's great, but it's like very often non-competitive. So I wonder if that was the pitch that he sailed to the backstop, or did you know for sure it was a fastball?
It was a fastball.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not great, but no. the splitter is flash too. he's definitely got high leverage stuff. So it's a matter of it coming together, but definitely going to be a big league arm one way or another.
Jonathan Rodriguez is a guy that I really like, and I've expressed my affection for him to you several times. And it's so Oscar Gonzalez, like Oscar, and so like fond Oscar Gonzalez, not the guy that was DFA'd and was a Scranton rail rider for a minute, like the Oscar Gonzalez that got up and hit that walk-off homer in the wild card series against Tampa. And we were talking for 2 months in there in 2022, I want to say. It's Jose Ramirez and it's Oscar Gonzalez. That's the only pop they have in that lineup right now. That is like kind of who Jonathan Rodriguez is. And by that, I mean, this guy hit 270 with 26 homers in 22. He hit about 290 with 29 homers last year. And he's hitting over 300 with 12 homers so far this year. Like, he's hitting and he's hitting for power. And he's done it year after year after year. And you'd think this guy is 26 by now, but no, he's 24 years old.
Yeah. I like, this is a guy that you could make the case like could have snuck in at the 15 spot too. I just think you kind of what you see is what you get here. And there's a little bit more to dream on when we get to 15 and just kind of what it can grow into there offensively. But I think Rodriguez, there's a reason why he's been kind of shuttled back and forth from the big leagues. Like they think he's, a fringe big leaguer and a guy that can fill a role when they need it. And, if things kind of click for him, could end up being a platoon piece.
Yeah. Doug Nikhazy, next guy. Lefty started really well this year in Double-A, but he was repeating Double-A. He had an ERA near 5 in Akron last year. He had an ERA just under 4 in High A the year before that. But this guy was one of the better pitchers in the country at Ole Miss. And I think we saw that good college arm really show itself in High A for a bit in 22, and then at the beginning of the year this year. He missed some time with injury, but this guy, like he's the step down from Parker Messick. That's how I view it, where it's like Messick is here, Nikhazy is like, an inch or two below that.
He gives me some, honestly, to me, he's almost like a hybrid of Messick and Cantillo, where like the command should be a little bit better through stretches, but it still is definitely better than some of the few non-command oriented pitchers in this system. But there is this level of just the stuff seems to just be better than whatever shows up on the radar gun. Like he just seems to have some built-in deception and just seems to create difficult angles for hitters. But walks have just continued to kind of be an issue for him too.
Yeah. Alex Mooney, the next guy, left side of the infield. He's kind of split his time between short and third. 7th round pick out of Duke last year. He flies. I don't know if the power is like a thing. Do you know? Like he's not really going to hit for much impact. He had like 5 homers quick, and everybody's like, "Oh, who is Alex Mooney?" But then like he kind of tapered off. But he's 27 for 32 in the stolen base department in the first 2.5 months of the season. So like he can really move. I don't know how he is defensively at short or third, considering he's played more third than short. I just assume he's a third baseman, and this is like the last place that you want to be a third baseman, Cleveland.
Yeah, and also like his offensive profile isn't really conducive to third. It's just another, I think, guy that's going to end up playing all over the diamond, and that's great. He's a good athlete, as you mentioned, and he's definitely swinging it better than I think anyone really expected. But the EVs are well below average. I think it's impressive that he can outslug the EVs a little bit, but I don't know if he's going to continue to do that. But I mean, for a 7th round pick to be doing what he's doing already, looks like a great find, and seems like a guy that they're going to try to develop into that archetype that they are just so obsessed with, which is play all over, good athlete, and then see which other aspect of your game is kind of better, the bat to ball, the on base, whatever it may be. For him, I think it's going to be more on base, but he's kind of a tweener in that regard.
Yeah. Jackson Humphreys is our next guy. Big left-hander. He was 7th or 8th round. He was an 8th round guy out of high school. He was committed to Campbell, which we know is pumped out, really solid, professional baseball players. And Humphreys, he's a bigger guy that can run it up to 97. It's a very heavy fastball, like almost a sinker type, but the results have not been there. Having said that, this is a guy that the Guardians can be very, very, very patient with because he was an 8th round pick out of high school, and he's only 19 years old at this point.
Yeah. Guess what his best pitch is?
It's not that sinker.
I mean, you could make the case it is, but I think like his best pitch is just the Cleveland Guardians classic.
Curveball.
No, changeup.
The Guardians have good changeups?
Oh yeah.
When did
Oh
that
yeah.
happen?
I don't know. Look, we'll go through it. You'll see. Like that's the other theme that I've picked up on here is like a lot of good changeups, especially from their lefties. I've noticed like that's been another kind of underrated theme here. Is that seems to be something they love to lean into.
Interesting. I mean, like obviously Cantillo, you think about that changeup, but like when I think of Bieber, it was always spin. Bybee, it's spin. Like
Yeah,
McKenzie, it was always spin.
I
Williams, it's spin. Like
I think the interesting thing is I think it's the lefties that they really
okay,
like to start mixing in. They love the lefties with the changeup, which makes sense because they're going to see more righties. So
yeah,
I think for whatever reason that's something that they leaned into really hard and it seems to work pretty well overall.
interesting. Couple more names. Daniel Espino. I put the level as TBD. We just like I had to say something. Like I had to put him in here, but like there's not much to say at this point. I'm really hoping to see him on a mound in 25. I know he's out for the entirety of this year with shoulder surgery. Like that'll be 3 years essentially between outings.
He makes me like no, I should say
Sad.
he makes me. His situation makes me as sad as really anyone because I think when I did the dive into Espino, I mean it was kind of like right as things were starting to take off. I can't like I specifically remember where I was when I really was diving into it because I remember how floored I was by the stuff and how excited I was to maybe go see him out in person. Um, this is a guy that if it weren't for injury, probably right up there with the best. He's already in the big leagues if it weren't for injury by now, but I think he's up there with Painter and those guys and Job even potentially if he never got hurt. When I remember like look back on the fastball characteristics, the quality of the stuff, the velocity. I mean, the breaking ball is a banger. Changeup was really good. Like if he can come back and be 50% of what he was, he will pitch in the big leagues. Like that's how talented he is. Like if he's 50% of what he was, he'll have a big league role one way or another. I don't know if it looks like Dalton Jeffries at that point, but
Right.
my point being is like he doesn't even need to be close to what he was to be of value here. If he can get to 70% of what he was, I think he's a back end starter or decent reliever in the big league. So that has to be the silver lining hope here. I think at this point.
Yeah, I think so. And we'll see what happens in 25. But again, he's going to miss the entirety of this year. A guy that I know you really liked, very, very limited looks at this point, 13 games in the Dominican. But I mean, damn, man. Like he's walked 8 times, he's K'd 4 times and 47 at bats at this point. He's swiped 15 bags in 13 games in the DSL. Robert Arias, an outfielder in the DSL, slashing 298, 404, 468. He had a hefty price tag, nearly $2 million. So, like, you see a guy perform this well with that big price tag. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, fortunately, this is one of those classic guys. Thank goodness we could, we're able to tap into some video on him. And he's 17 and very small, and he generates a good deal of bat speed and has, I think, some of the better plate discipline. I know it's short sample here, but just kind of the way he was taking pitches and how comfortable he was, and just he looked like a guy that had been playing the game a lot longer than he has. Like, and that's something that I always like, and it also checks all the boxes that we're used to seeing with the Guardians. So you can see why the Guardians love this guy, given that it's a great field to hit, great approach, speedy guy that could probably play a good center field as he develops. I'm very intrigued to get just again more looks at him, whether it be just video or eventually when he gets over stateside. But this is definitely one of their more intriguing lower level prospects.
What do you know about Franco Alemán?
Not a
Do you
ton.
know anything about him?
Not a ton, to be honest. Like he's a big, hard throwing right-hander that I do think will have a good chance of being in the back end of a bullpen at some point if he can stay healthy and stay, I think throw enough strikes. The problem with him is it's very fastball reliant, and the fastball is great.
But the fastball can run up to 101, right? Like it takes off like a rocket ship from 6'6", 235. Like his backstory is crazy to me. I think it was 3 schools. It was like one school, then JUCO, then Florida. He was a swingman and like not a good one at Florida. And then he was a swingman his first year of pro ball and like not a good one. And then he goes to the bullpen full time and everything ticks up. And like that fastball reliance is like, frankly, it's okay in Double A when you throw 100, when you throw 101.
Yeah, and the crazy part too is like he digs real back, like far back with the arm, and it's like a really long like long motion that I think just is really difficult for hitters to pick up. But the velo has been down over the last few outings, so that is something to monitor. But what's amazing is like even as it's been down, he's still been getting outs. But yeah, we did see him up to the upper 90s last year to touching 100. This year it's been more mid to sometimes high, and then sometimes a little bit lower than that. So health is a little bit of something to watch here too in the velo overall.
Got you.
All right, number 15. One of the more impressive hitters in the minor leagues right now. And we just talked about him briefly because we knew we were going to talk about him more on this episode when we did the all MILB team of the first half. Go check that out if you missed that episode. CJ Kayfus, first baseman from the University of Miami. And it's cool. They went, with a couple teammates there between Walters and Kayfus. Kayfus is somebody that I actually got to go out and see on the Cape. And I was impressed with just his operation in the box, sweet swing from the left side. But there was a bit of a challenge when you try to envision the big league role because it's, a hit over power and it's a first base profile. So him kind of knowing that focuses on tapping into more power and goes into his junior year feeling like he's got a little bit more in the tank and reaches double-digit home runs. I think it was 14 for the first time in his 3 years in college. That's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it was a trend in the right direction enough for the Guardians to take him in the third round. I think the field to hit has been clear. The contact rates are closer to average, but I think this is one of those guys where you do have to just kind of watch the games, watch the way that he goes about his business. And he's just able to really fight with two strikes. He's got a really just good knack for finding the barrel. So I do still think he grades out as an above average hitter. And the EVs are average, but he seems to have a pretty good knack for also backspinning baseballs and creating carry. And that's why he's been able to hit 13 home runs through 59 games so far. I thought he might slow down when he got up to AA. Hasn't. He's continued to mash there. It's a good approach. It's hard to poke a hole in what we've seen so far. Nothing jumps off the page, but now with 20 home runs potentially being within reach, there could be an everyday player here if he hits enough. And so far he has.
He's a very well-rounded first baseman. And the problem for him is that he's looking up at a very well-rounded first baseman in AAA, who's looking up at a very well-rounded first baseman in the big leagues. Yeah. And he's backlogged by 2. And I know that he was just drafted last year, but there's a lot of traffic in front of him in Naylor and Manzardo. And Manzardo we're going to talk about a little bit later on. But, there's a lot of pressure on producing base hits consistently when you are a guy that, we're looking at as max 20 homers in a given season.
Yeah.
In the big leagues. And right now, he totally is. Guy's hitting 340. So you can't knock him until he doesn't do it. And I will say that the thing that was most impressive about his time at Miami, sophomore and junior year, he walked more than he K'd. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the power saw that much of an uptick and he got up to, I think it was 13 homers, not
13.
40.
Okay.
Yeah, 13 homers, but same number of games essentially. He upped his homer total from 8 to 13 and he still walked more than he struck out. That's a guy that made a power improvement without sacrificing what you do in terms of plate discipline.
Which is all you want to see, right? That's even if it's a marginal improvement or a half grade, it's still, if it doesn't come at the expense of anything else, you'll have to see that. They've mixed him in left field a little bit more in high A than AA, but that's something to monitor. He's a decent athlete, so maybe he can develop into a passable defender out there. That would help a ton. The other thing that does help his case is that he crushes lefties, and that goes all the way back to last year, even in college. He has been really comfortable left on left, so that does help his case pretty significantly as well. If you're going to be a bulk platoon guy, then you really got to slug more, and I don't think that's an issue for him because he's almost bordering reverse splits where he just demolishes lefties. So Kayfus is interesting, and just excited to see him get more opportunity here. The only thing that slowed him down, the only person that could slow him down right now is Bubba Chandler, who K'd him a couple times, but I don't think anybody's hitting Bubba Chandler right now.
He was disgusting. It was 11 Ks and 6 innings of one hit ball. Do I have that right? I mean, yeah. Holy hell, man. And I don't think that means hey, he's ticketed for Indy right now, but a couple more starts like that. Holy smokes.
And Kayfus honestly had some good ABs. I was watching them before we recorded this, and he gave, I think, Bubba some of the tougher ABs. And even then, he just made some perfect pitches. You just got to tip your cap. 14. Parker Messick, I know one of Jack's favorites, just because I know you love your pitchability lefties, and Messick is just a classic example of that. And here's another guy with his best pitch being a changeup from the left side. Sneaky characteristics on the fastball. He's 6 foot 225, so he works down, and it's a below average release height with above average carry. So even though it's only 91, 93, which is a tick up from where he was, at FSU, it plays up a little bit above that. So it plays like a big league average fastball. I think the changeup really works well off of the carry, and that's a plus pitch. And then, the two breaking balls are kind of a work in progress here. The slider, I think, is flashed average, but is kind of a fringy pitch. And the curveball is more of just a strike steal or a different look. And that's where it becomes interesting. Like, I think that's what's going to be the final piece there for him to be a starter. But the above average command really helps his case as well. And I think at the very least, you have a guy here that's a depth like starter. And you know what? Those guys are valuable too.
I know a lot of people really like Jackson Bouwmeester. And like, I'm not going to compare them, because I think Bouwmeester probably has louder stuff in the Orioles organization, but like, they're kind of the same. Like, I just watched Bouwmeester at Florida State. I was like, you're just Parker Messick again. Like, it feels like Florida State always has a frontline guy like that, a Friday guy that is going to fill up the zone with several pitches. That changeup was awesome when he was in college, and somehow it's gotten better in pro ball. And the fact that he can pour 4 pitches in, like varying degrees of effectiveness, like that curveball, you're not going to go out on a limb and say, oh, that's a really good curveball that's going to get a bunch of swings and misses. But like, the fact that he can drop the curveball in for a strike when he needs to, and the slider and the changeup and the fastball, and you can turn it into a guessing game, like, that's what's going to make him good. And that's what's going to make him a 5. Like, I just see such a high chance that he's a 5.
Yeah. Here. I think he can massage his way through lineups enough to be a 5. I agree with you. And I think the fact that the fastball has some decent characteristics to it, and the slider performs better left on left, so he has that pitch, but also the changeup, performs really well left on left too. So he always has that as a weapon also. I think he's going to be able to find a way to be able to, I think, turn a lineup over and be that number 5 type of starter. Of course, if his fastball ticked up another notch, that would be huge. But I already see a fair amount of effort in that delivery. So it seems like that 5 starter profile probably makes the most sense.
Yeah.
13, more volatile, but a lot more I'd say a decent amount more upside. Joey Cantillo, who I think is kind of the similar comp in terms of when you look at the pitch grades across the board. But, I think you can dream on a little bit more. And also you have to worry about a little bit more, because Joey Cantillo, left-hander, who we had on the show, was that a year ago now when we were at the All-Star event?
Yeah, Futures game. Yeah,
Futures game. Last year. Awesome guy and easy to root for and very talented. I mean, when you look at the numbers, he has multiple years. I think he had back-to-back years with a 1.93 ERA, which is pretty wild. It's just been a matter of, I feel like every time he starts to string together a nice stretch, it goes down with an ailment of some sorts. And then also command has held him back through spurts as well. And I would attribute some of that to just being on the shelf and your arm not always feeling the way you want it to. This is one of the best it's the best changeup in the system. It's one of the better changeups in the minor leagues. Opponents, I queued it all the way back to the start of his professional career, and opponents are hitting 130 against his changeup. So I mean, that's across every single level with an OPS barely over 400. That pitch alone should get him to the big leagues. It's really tough to see and hit, and at 80 gets like 12, 13 miles an hour separation. It's gross. The slider flashes average, maybe a little bit more, and that's a fine pitch for him too. The fastball command has really been off for him this year, which is surprising. It's mostly 92 to 94, can grab a 5, but for whatever reason, he has really struggled to locate the fastball this year, and that has hurt him. But in the past, he's been a little bit better than that. The fastball does get on hitters a little bit quicker because he gets more than 7 feet of extension, which helps a ton. I think also helps the rest of his arsenal. And then he'll flip a couple curveballs in there as well.
So Cantillo, I had the chance to catch up with him when Columbus was in town, and he made his first appearance off of the IL. And he was going short, like designed to go short. He's been really effective in his first, I think it's 4 starts in AAA this year. And they've been, what's the word? Not subdued, but they've been kind of pinched in terms of duration. Like he's being limited. They've been limited. And I was talking to him after his first limited start where he looked good. And like he was kind of fighting through command issues in the first, and then it was no problem in the second. And he was dealing with a hamstring thing that kept him out for about a month and a half, 2 months. And he said, I'll tell you right now, man, like in terms of being able to reset, that was like really good timing for me to, be on the shelf for a minute. And, it's never good to be on the shelf, but like this guy got up to AAA last year and wasn't filling the strike zone up. And what he was doing in the lower levels when he was a Padres farmhand and when he was a Guardians farmhand, like he was filling up the strike zone a lot more than he was last year. So he said, like almost a chance to not necessarily go back to the drawing board, but just like take that deep breath and come back and feel rejuvenated. He feels rejuvenated right now, and we'll see if they can use him for the playoff push. I think they probably can in some sort of hybrid role.
Yeah, I like the hybrid idea too. He could piggyback, he could open, especially if it's a left-handed heavy lineup. There's a lot of things you can do with him. He's a fun weapon because of that. And because of his ability. So when he's on, he can absolutely turn the lineup over. But, when the command is still spotty, he can go 2-3 innings and be really, really impressive. And you mentioned last 3 outings, he's gone 9 1/3 combined, and he struck out 14. So it's there. And I mean, I know the walk rate's kind of high, but we know that players are dealing with the ABS and dealing with those things. So that can always, contribute to that as well. But historically, that has been an aspect for him that, is kind of worth monitoring. Number 12 was a guy that was really tough to peg. George Valera, outfielder in AAA. What he did in 2021 really burst him onto the scene, where I think he was already a high regarded prospect because he signed for $1 million, 1.3 in 2017. But what he did in 21 was crazy. He was always kind of younger than his competition, and just this sweet swing from the left side, even though there's a lot of moving parts and a really big barrel tip and all that stuff. But when he connected, it was demolished. Yeah. And it's just really satisfying to watch. So he quickly became a favorite. And then swing and miss concerns as well as injuries really stifled really any momentum that he had. And I think it's tough to look at last year because he came back from a hamate, which I almost always throw out the first few months, unless the guy's performing well, of course. But if a guy's struggling, I try not to hold it against him off the hamate because I've talked to too many hitters that have come back from that. And, the residual effects are pretty hard to deny. And then he also had a hamstring issue after that. I have my concerns with Valera in general anyways, in terms of how he could be an everyday player. But at the same time, this is also a prospect fatigue candidate, right? He's 23 and getting his second taste of AAA. He plays a decent corner. He hits the ball so freaking hard. And they've been trying to play him every day because why not? He's one of your higher regarded prospects. He can't hit lefties. And when he gets to the big leagues, he's not going to hit. He's not even going to get a chance to face lefties, I think. So I try to throw that away. And if you look at him against righties, he's significantly better. And his numbers this year against righties are actually really solid. 277, 353, 487 slash line, only a 19% K rate. That's where I think I see him slotting in here, which, by the way, against lefties, 071, 235, 119 slash line, a 45% K rate in 51 plate appearances. It's non-competitive. There's no reason for him to face lefties. So if you're thinking about him as a bulk platoon guy that can play a decent corner either way, 3 true outcome hitter, he's going to walk a ton. He's consistently run a chase rate below 20%. And I mean, he hits the ball really hard, 90th percentile of 107 this year, which is higher than it's ever been. I think there's just a bulk platoon corner outfield role here where he can lean into the 3 true outcomes and give you some pop and value.
It just stinks because we were hoping for so much more than that. So I think that's why we're talking about him at 12 now. And I know, before we hit the record button and before this published, I mean, we were talking about him lower than that. What pushed him to 12? Like just realizing, okay, I'll take the bulk platoon guy over, a couple other options.
It sounds weird, but I actually, when I dove into the platoons, was hoping that the left-handed, the left on left splits would be that bad, because then
it eliminates it instead of tanking him.
It's easier to create a role.
Yeah.
Because if it's iffy both ways, how do you set this guy up for success? He's got to figure it out.
Yeah.
He's figured out how to hit righties, I think, at a big league caliber clip. I don't think he's ever going to figure out how to hit lefties. But if it was like an 800 OPS against righties, I think that's even a good place to put it at. If it was a 780 OPS against righties and then a 640 or 660 against lefties, I'm like, I don't know. But when it's 354 against lefties and 840 against righties, and we're talking about a slow Valera start this year, I can see that big league role making way more sense versus kind of evenly disappointing splits. So I do think, and also you look at his swing path. it's designed, it's grooved to hit breaking balls that are breaking towards him and hit fastballs. So like it's also very easy to demolish him, pick him apart with that swing path left on left. So I think what ended up boosting him up for me was seeing that role that I genuinely think he can lean into, and also reminding myself that last year was, I really want to count that as a lost year for him. Like between the hamate and the hamstring, he's 23 off of a lost year in AAA. I think he deserves at least the rest of this year before we really, I think attach the weight to him and sink him.
Yeah. The only thing that I'll say is when I think he was a consensus top 100 prospect, or at least, partial top 100 prospect, he was patient. And like with what I've seen this year, it's passive.
Yes.
Like, and it's a very, very thin line. It is a tightrope between patient and passive. I think he's gone too far to passive, and I don't think he's patient anymore. And that kind of scares me.
That's very valid. And that might be the problem. And that might be something, I think that's a great thing to just continue to monitor. For me, I think the upside at that point, like, I'm thinking about it from the Suns, like, okay, you have a choice of Cantillo or Valera. I kind of know where Cantillo is going to end up. I feel pretty confident, the range there. There's a chance that Valera turns into this, platoon masher, and you're like, oh man, I passed on that upside, because again, you can't really teach the power that he brings from the left side. And I still think that there's some more just upside to unlock there as he tries to figure out who he is as a hitter. And I'm glad you brought up the passiveness.
Yeah.
11. I know a player that you've been on even longer than me, because I think you caught him first at the lower levels when you were working in Fort Wayne, right?
Yeah, high A, 2021.
Jose Tena, shortstop, but you can play him anywhere. This actually became easy for me to put him at 11 because he does a lot of the things now that Valera does, but with more defensive utility and better numbers. And he's younger, I believe. So Tena, it's also frustrating sometimes. Left-handed hitter. He made some similar adjustments to Jhonkensy Noel, and I think this is kind of a philosophical thing in the Guardian system. If a guy starts struggling, watch what they do. Like they'll have him stack so heavy on his back leg preset. Noel has done that, and he's gone nuclear since he's done that. I was going to put together something like drawing the line of when he started getting way more stacked on his back leg and the results. Valera has always kind of been that way, but leaned into that more. And Tena, 100%, has lowered his hands and way more stacked on the back side. The results have been way more power than he's ever had. I mean, you saw him in high A, so you can probably speak to the development more, but I just looking at the data and the swing and everything, like massive jump in exit velocities. Only 1 mile per hour jump in the average EV, but a 4 mile per hour jump in the 90th. He's a 90th percentile exit velocity of 107.5, dude. Like, that's crazy for this guy. So he found something here. He's aggressive though, and there's fringy contact rates, but he also can hit lefties really well as a left-handed hitter. He hits righties just fine too. The fact that he can play a decent shortstop, play a really good third, second, you can move him all over. He just screams quality utility guy now that he's leaning into this uptick in power. Already 14 home runs this year.
So can I ask you what that tells you? That his average EV has stayed pretty much the same, but his 90th has climbed. Because like, I'll give you a theory and you tell me if I'm right or not. What that means to me is like he's not missing on his A swing that much anymore.
You got it.
Like he's getting his A swing off, and like his A swing is now productive instead of I'm going to swing out of my shoes and I'm not going to clip it at all. Or it's like my A swing, like he's actually leaning more into let me get an effing swing off instead of like, oh, I'm just going to try and hit the ball hard here.
I think you nailed it. And I think a big part of that is because he's starting so close to his launch position. He's like, yeah, and he might swing and miss more, but he feels like he can get to a spot early and just let that thing go. And that's fine. He knows he's not going to hit for average. And he knows that, okay, if I hit for more power, it takes some pressure off of my ability to hit for average. But I think he had a lot of moving parts too. You remember the hands used to kind of go high. He used to tip the barrel. And if your timing is thrown off, naturally, you're going to slow your barrel down, or you're going to be so late that you're going to be slowed down by the ball itself. So I think his timing being thrown off, and it like kind of ties into exactly what you were saying, seeing the ball earlier now, being able to get that head out and really just get his best swing off, that's fine. If he's a guy that strikes out but runs into power and moves all over the infield, Sounds good to me. And I was really impressed with the instincts defensively. Making the right throw, like ball in the hole, runner at second base is running to third, making that quick throw to third to get the out. Other times, not making that throw because he realized he wasn't going to get it, and making the throw over to first. Just little things like that. When I'm watching him instinctually, it just seems like it comes very easy to him, and he's very anticipatory. And I think that's a really good aspect to have for a guy that's moving all over the diamond.
So I love watching him defend. I've really enjoyed watching him hit. And I've heard from teammates and I've heard from other people around the organization that his makeup is like as good as it comes. Like I haven't heard a single bad thing about Jose Tena. So that makes me feel very good about a young shortstop making his presence felt in the big leagues.
And I think that's why we've already seen him now twice in the big leagues to that point. And I love the makeup, aspect of that too. I hope he hits enough. 40 plate discipline is always tough, but when it comes with now above average game power and defensive versatility, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Number 10, Jhonkensy Noel. We've talked about him so much, so we don't need to get too deep into this. Homered in his first big league at bat, it was his first big league at bat.
Off Grayson. Awesome. Yeah, it was funny. His first big league swing, he lost the bat, like it went into the third base coaching box, like it flew out of his hands. And then his second big league swing was 417 dead center off Grayson Rodriguez.
He's so much fun. You saw his team just going nuts for him. It seems like I can't speak to it. I don't have any info, but seems like another great makeup guy.
It seems like I've heard nothing but great things about Noel because he's a hustler. And it's like a guy that big, you would understand if he would just kind of like lollygag it occasionally. Like a guy that big playing hard, that's endearing. It's really endearing.
I was shocked at how good the defense is at first for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really solid. And like you can throw him in the outfield in an utter like emergency, which is nice because like those happen all the time in the big leagues. And if you want to keep a bat in the lineup, and especially with the Guardians in their first base situation and DH situation, like if there's a world where you want to have Manzardo, they're all raking, let's say Manzardo, Naylor, and Noel in the lineup, you can throw Noel in a corner and just hope he doesn't get too many balls hit his way and he'll make the routine plays. Like I look at a Garrett Cooper. I'm like, if Garrett Cooper can do it, Jhonkensy Noel can do it. And again, they didn't do it well, but there's a value to like in an absolute pinch, can I put him out there? You said it yourself, like he's not a disaster out there. I don't think he's good. Don't get me wrong. Like I've seen some ugly plays out there, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
It's not. And like he pinch hit yesterday, late game in Kansas City, and then he hopped into right for the final 2 innings. And like he was fine. He had a put out there. And like I don't think it's Schwarber or Castellanos. Like it's not good. It's not good. Like, is it Hunter Renfroe? I think Renfroe like doesn't grade out well, but he's got a cannon for an arm. Like that's kind of how I view Noel, where it's like you're a big man that throws it really hard back in, but like you're kind of sort of immobile, but things that you can get to, you're gonna make the play.
And we talked about the power. It's 70. Like it's just a matter of does he hit enough in the big leagues to get there? The plate discipline is the thing that's gonna, I think the sentence in the write-up pretty much just I can't really put it better than I put it there, which is massive power and a better feel to hit than he gets credit for. Noel has been held back by an ultra aggressive approach and a first base / DH profile, but I think he's bucked that a little bit with the outfield aspect. But I think that's why people were overlooking to a degree. But I think there is a better feel to hit than people would expect. That's why he's even able to survive, considering how bad the approach is at times. And you don't see me give out a 30 plate discipline grade very often.
Right.
You got to earn that thing. But that said, like he can demolish lefties at the very least. And I think there's at least a short platoon role there. And it's easier when you can do it at both first DH and the outfield to do that short side of the platoon. But I mean, he's hit righties well enough too. So there's massive power here. And I do see that like Franmil Reyes type of profile where when it's right, it's like, wow, this guy can hit you 30 homers. But then when it's wrong, you might not be able to find the answer and he could be out of the league. Like it really is that type of player.
Right.
Number 9, Welbyn Francisca. All you, Jack.
Yeah. Aram, who is he?
I love when it's the complex guys. One of their higher prized IFA guys, I think the highest paid guy in their 2023 class, 1.3 million, which I think was surprisingly less than a lot of the industry was expecting him to get. It just, if I gave you all of the prototypes or the archetypes and profiles of each of the international free agents in the class last year, you would have said, oh, the Guardians will sign that Francisca guy. It's switch hitter, great field to hit, pretty good knowledge of the strike zone, good defense up the middle. I watch him make some really nice plays at shortstop. There's not a ton to dream on. He's 5'9", 170, but I do really like what he's doing from both sides of the plate. And I do think there's sneaky impact there where there's enough doubles and I think a sneaky pull side pop to where he can be, good enough in that department. I think you're dreaming on a table setting shortstop here that can run a little bit and a switch hitter that just grinds out ABs.
Got you. I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. And the hit tool though, like could trend towards plus. That's just the other thing to kind of monitor there. But definitely fun and probably more upside than some of the other middle infielders at the higher levels that we're going to talk about. But of course, also further off. So we got to wait and see there.
You just kind of gave me the Rocchio pitch, so I'm like, oh yeah, it's just Rocchio again.
Yeah. Could be. So. Number 8. Alex Clemmey, a guy that I actually know you will have more to say on. 6'6" lefty, second rounder, 58th overall. I think it's important to note that he is almost everything that would coincide with raw, like needs time to develop. He's a 6'6" high school lefty from the Northeast. Those are guys that usually spend a lot of their time at the complex before they get to full season ball. He's relatively advanced in that regard. But in the grand scheme of baseball prospects, he's very raw. Command is, work in progress. The slider has a chance to be an elite out pitch. The fastball doesn't perform as well as you'd think it does, and I'll get into that, but it's still mid-90s up to 97 from a tougher to pick up release at times, but I think that's what I'll get into in a moment. And the changeup is flashed. It's really about the command. It's a high effort delivery, though. That is something I'm a little concerned about. But it really just is about the command and just becoming a more polished pitcher instead of a thrower. But I think the fact that slider is already elite, you can see a big league role for him no matter what.
So 5 starts in April for Clemmey in low A. He had a 12.6 ERA. There was 21 earned in 15 innings. Opponents hit 306 against him. He walked 15 in 15 innings. Okay. 5 starts in May. He had a 2.33 ERA. So he went from a 12.6 to a 2.3. Punched out 25, walked 13 in 19 and a thirds. Opponents hit 172 against him. 4 starts in June. A 1.8 ERA. 3 earned in his last 15 innings. He's walked 10, but he's K'd 21, and opponents are hitting 216. His numbers on the year look bad because he was one of the worst pitchers in minor league baseball in April.
Yeah.
And then May came around. For a teenage 6'6" skinny lefty from the Northeast in full season minor league ball, like you just laid out. Again, I don't like playing the throw that month out thing, but if you throw that month out, this guy has looked the part and then some. His stuff is gross. And the Guardians do not take high school arms unless they are electric, and this guy is electric.
I agree. And if it's a Spino-esque, stuff like that. And they paid him a lot of money. It was $2.2 million.
Yeah, right.
That's first round money.
Yeah.
They liked him a lot. He's not even 19 yet. He doesn't turn 19 until July 18th. So there's so much to like here. And I think the fallback, I wonder what you think of this comp, but the fallback for me, if he's not a starter, is Tanner Scott. To me, is that not almost exactly what it looks like? I mean, even delivery wise, the slider, I think if it doesn't work out, the fallback is that Tanner Scott type of role, which is a great player and a great pitcher. My concern with the fastball is I think people see the release and they see the velocity and they're like, oh, that must just have some crazy ride to it or whatever. Because he's 6'6", and even though it looks like he's releasing low because it's kind of this 3/4 release, it's still kind of high because he's 6'6" and he doesn't work that far down the mound. So it's a 6-foot release and he doesn't get that much carry and doesn't get a ton of horizontal. So it does kind of come on a fairly easy to see plane, I think, for hitters. And so hitters are just geared up for the fastball. The problem is the slider is so hard to pick up off that plane, tunneling off of it. So hitters, I think, are just hoping to get the fastball and hit the fastball. And they have hit it decently well and not nearly as well since, as you mentioned, over the last month or so. But I think that's kind of the thing that's missing for him is either the shape needs to improve a bit or he needs to, I think, go towards the sinker route, 2-seam sinker route. And from that release, that could work really well. It can still work with the four-seamer, but I think it gives him another wrinkle instead of hitters just pretty much being geared for the fastball here and saying, if you locate 3 sliders, I'll tip my cap. And he has been locating 3 sliders lately, and that's helped. But yeah, that's something that I think as he develops, I have a lot of faith in the Guardians being able to get him there. And the changeup is flashed.
And they're not going to push him. Like, they're not going to fast track him. He'll spend the entire year in Lynchburg, and then he'll probably spend the entire year next year in Lake County, and then we'll go from there. 100%. I'm not worried about this.
Absolutely. Juan Brito, number 7, guy you've seen plenty of. And he doesn't quite stack up with a couple of the middle infielders ahead of him because I think he's more defensively limited than some of the names that we're going to get to. But he is just a really sound offensive profile, to at least an average to above average field to hit, great plate discipline. And this is another reason why I wanted to separate, because I think you'll see a lot of people say, oh, plus hitter. And I think we did in the past. The more I've dove into it, it's average to above average hitter, but it's plus plate discipline that really makes him grade out as what looks like a plus hitter. The power is closer to average now, which is great. That helps because it takes some pressure off the hit tool. But there is some limitations of, okay, you can't really play short. You can play a fine third if you got to put him there. He really profiles best at second, and I know they're going to mix him in the corner outfield a bit. And he's not much of a burner, so there's just a lot of pressure on the bat here. But it is a really productive bat from both sides of the plate, and it's hard to argue against the minor league track record that he's had so far. And I think a debut isn't too far away.
Yeah, he's a lot stronger than I, gave him credit for. Like, just seeing him at field level and, standing like close to him, like, I realized, like, wow, forearms are defined at this point. And it's like, your arms are big, man. Like, you are a thick cut guy, which makes sense that, he's spending his time at second. So I'm play third a little bit. It was okay, like passable at third. And again, like kind of revisiting the Mooney point, like, third is the worst place to be with the Cleveland Guardians, especially if you're in AAA. But second base is like the second worst place to be if you're a Cleveland Guardians prospect. But man, like, he's a bigger guy. I do think that there's some pop in there. Like, you've got 45. He's a strong guy. He just doesn't run into it often. I think the raw power would be a little bit higher than the game power. Like, it's probably 55 raw, but 45 game.
Something, yeah, maybe 50, 50, 55, somewhere along those lines. And he's getting closer to tapping into that a little bit more. My concern is I think it's closer on the right side to 55. I think it's 55 raw from the right side. From the left side, it's not as powerful. And that's my other concern with him. And especially this year, he's hitting 343, 452, 571 from the right side. Wow. From the left side, it's 207, 341, 351. So that's a 692 OPS versus a 1,024 OPS. Small sample of 84 plate appearances from the right side versus 252 from the left side. And historically, it hasn't been that dramatic. He's actually not really had those kind of splits. But when we talked about it a couple of days ago, his left-handed swing, he really crouches over the plate in his load. Yeah. And I think pitchers are just running it in on his hands. He doesn't do it nearly as much from the right side. I really like the right-handed setup. He adjusted both of those really going into this year. And the new left-handed setup, he really does lean his torso over the plate. And it wasn't a surprise to me that when we queued up from the inside part of the plate, when he's hitting from the left side, give me 2 seconds here, 186, 301, 299 slash line on pitches on the inner half when he's hitting lefty. That can't happen. So the reason why he's still high is because we've seen him hit. He's got to find a way to keep his torso more upright from the left side, but he's got some natural ability to hit that I think is hard to deny. And I think you mentioning how physical he is, like there's potential to slug a little bit there too. But even then, like through those struggles, quote unquote, he's walking almost as much as he struck out, and he's already launched 10 home runs this year.
It'd be nice to have Nolan Jones, but this is a really nice concession if you do have to give up Nolan Jones.
Yeah, it's not like they totally whiffed there at all. No. Number 6, Angel Martinez. I know another one of your favorites, and I think a guy that does a lot of things well. Defensively was a lot of fun to watch him. He is really good at third. Really good at third. He can play short. They've played him in center field a bit. They obviously can play. He can play a great second as well. He really is that true utility type, also a switch hitter. I just love some of the subtle adjustments he's made. He's also a year younger than some of these guys, just younger than pretty much everybody that we're going to talk about in this range. The adjustments that he's made have really resulted in a lot more contact. His plate discipline has totally changed from before being a guy that runs a chase rate over 30%. Now has been extremely selective. I want to see it over a larger sample because he's been hurt, the early part of this year. And so it's a small sample, but you watch the ABs, it's totally different in terms of how he's approaching things. So that is great to see. And yeah, I think there's a little bit more impact there too. It's a quick bat. It's a compact stroke. And he just seems like a really high floor, well-rounded player that I still think has some more in the tank. There's still some room to fill out. I do really like where he's gotten to defensively, and he's another guy that's pretty consistent from both sides of the plate.
So he seems like the perfect blend of the middle infielders that they typically go after, and then Gabriel Arias, who's settled into a full-time big league spot. And Arias is a little bit, Arias is much higher ceiling than like the typical high floor middle infielder that they go after. Angel Martinez is kind of like striking the perfect balance between Brian Rocchio and Gabriel Arias. And you get Angel Martinez. And Arias and Rocchio can play short. Martinez is probably best served when not playing short. But in terms of offensive profile and overall value, give me Martinez, who kind of gives me the best of both worlds.
Yep. I like that. And 'cause I do think that his field of hit is severely underrated. And I know he undermined that himself with the plate discipline last year, but I think we're seeing the difference this year. And again, there's a reason why he got the opportunity at the big league level, even if it was just for a couple games, picked up 2 hits in one of those games. And since he's gone back, I think he really impressed them because since he's gone back to Columbus, he's played back-to-back games and homered the other day too. I think they want to find a way to keep him in the lineup at the big league level, and I think he's going to start to see more action in the outfield. It's like a revolving door of infielders in the outfield right now, which is great. But I think Martinez can be the guy that ends up grabbing that. And just with how natural the game comes to him, another very instinctual player, another thing that the Guardians love to identify, I think he can catch on in the outfield pretty quickly. And I know we were talking about that just because he started to see some more action in center and those other spots. And Alex Cohen, the voice of the iCubs, was saying he looked really good, relatively speaking. Like, just if you put it in context, like, looked great in the series against them, playing all over the field. And I know he came away impressed with him too.
So it's a lot like Daniel Schneemann, right? Like, Schneemann has spent a good bit of time in center in the outfield. But like, this guy kind of bounces around again, like another utility guy. And as of right now, the answer is Schneemann in the big league lineup for them. But, Martinez is probably the higher ceiling answer for them than a Daniel Schneemann.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
Into the top 5. We're going to get to Angel Genao in a moment. Before that, a quick break. All right. So I think one of the biggest climbers or just, I guess, one of the louder prospects, I think, relative to where they were going into the year and where they're at now is Angel Genao, shortstop, another switch hitter, $1.1 million international free agent in 2021. It seems to be coming together for him this year. I know he was banged up last year, which kind of delayed the coming out party for him. And so far this year, it's been really good. And I almost want to hijack your point on the Gabriel Arias and Rocchio combination. And I think Genao is kind of cut from that as well. I think they're starting to try to target guys that maybe are a little bit more of a balance of the two. Because remember, Arias came over in a trade. That wasn't a guy that they signed. He came over in the trade with the Padres. So Genao, great glove on the left side. I think he might not have the range to stick it short. That's going to be something to monitor, but a good arm. I like the actions. I think he moves his feet well enough at this point, but again, the range could be a little bit fringy there. It could be a really solid third baseman if he moves there, but I still think he can play shortstop. The average exit velocity is definitely higher than a lot of these other guys that we were talking about when they were 19, 20 years old. He just turned 20. Yeah. And I think that what impresses me is that he already is hitting the ball pretty hard, but it hasn't really come at expense of the contact rates. It's 87% in zone contact rate. Again, the EVs are right above average for his age and especially for this organization. And so far between low A and high A, he's been really mashing. It's a 327, 370, 514 slash line, 7 homers. And from both sides of the plate, he's been really consistent. He's been a little bit better from the right side, and that's been a theme I've seen with this system, which you don't love to see, but it's what's going to happen when you get a switch hitter who's right-hand dominant a lot of times when they're first developing. that right-handed swing might be a little bit more powerful, and that's been the case a little bit with Genao, but he's still been really good from the left side. Bat to ball wise, it's better. It's just a little bit more power from the right side. We're talking about a guy that could stick on the left side of the infield, has, I think, average power, which all the other guys are more fringy, and also, can motor a little bit and do a little bit of everything. So I can see why he's got a lot of helium this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's also, like, you've got 55 runner on him. He's 18 for 21 in the stolen base department. I also love that it's Genao. Is that it? Angel Genao? I thought it was Genao, but I like Genao. That's really good. A lot of H in that.
I like the Latin players not letting us. I mean, if they want to
Americanize it, yeah,
but don't let us don't Americanize it just because people Americanized it for you. Like, if you want to, that's fine. Like that again, like I could totally understand just being like, I'd rather just have it pronounced the way people in the U.S. pronounce it. But also, I do appreciate people saying, no, this is how it's said. This is what it is. I'm like, that's my name. It's Genao.
This is my name.
So yeah. I do like that. Nothing drove me more crazy. My dad couldn't stand the fact that Matt Diaz went by Matt Diaz. Didn't help that he hit like 440 in his career against the Marlins. But yeah, I know that one. My dad every time was like, it's Diaz.
It's Diaz. So, but yeah. Like it was Alex Avila. Like, which one is it? Like, just tell us what your name is and we'll say your name appropriately. But the video that I've seen on Genao, I've really enjoyed because he seems smooth, like as smooth as anybody in this organization. And, like Martinez has a little bit more twitch to him than a Genao man. But like the thing that made Rocchio such a popular prospect right away was how smooth he was. And Genao, I feel like, is that next guy that's at the lower levels that is just showing a smoothness and a maturity, especially defensively, beyond like where he should be.
Yeah. And he might not be the wizard that Rocchio has been, but he also hits the ball harder than Rocchio was. So, and I think, if you ask the Guardians, they probably wish that Rocchio hit the ball a little bit harder.
I think so.
As good as the defense is. Number 4, Jaison Chourio, outfielder, another name that honestly might have more helium than Genao if we're comparing. And it does help when you're the brother of Jaison Chourio. Jack, do you think he's a switch hitter?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep, he's a switch hitter. It's just classic. But
is he a shortstop too? Can he play short? I know he's in the outfield.
I'd be shocked if they don't give him a little bit of a run at short just for old time's sake. But no, he plays center. And honestly, the reason why I'm a little bit lower on him than maybe the industry, and not by much, but just a little bit from what I've gathered, is I don't know how it looks in center. He's got time. He's 19. But to me, I think it might be more of a left field profile. He just doesn't look that natural out there. And the actions aren't great, but he's fast. So that does help. And if it comes along, it comes along. But it's the bat that I think has really gotten people excited. 90% in zone contact as a 19-year-old, and he just turned 19 as well, and full season ball. And as a 19-year-old switch hitter, and those contact rates are comparable from both sides, low chase rates, and average exit velocities. He's walked more than he struck out this year. I had some concern early in the year with fastballs and velocity. He was a little bit slow. And I think that was a slight mechanical issue. He's cleaned that up already, and he's been performing a lot better against those pitches. He's a tough guy to get out right now, and he's a lot more advanced in his competition. I wonder how much power there is in the tank there ultimately, but he's got room in the frame, and you do have to cite the twitchiness and explosion of his brother, who is also not the most physical guy in the world, but is more filled out than Jaison is at this point. I think there's a lot to like there. And I think there's some more to dream on. And if he can even get to 40 grade power with above average plate discipline and plus hit, he's in a good spot.
Well, and note what you're saying defensively, like that's kind of where we're at with Jackson. Is it not?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's in center, but like, is he best utilized in center? I'd rather see Frelick in center long-term, and let's put Jackson in a corner. Like there are so many things that are going into the big league wrinkle of Jackson that we weren't, I don't want to say not privy to in the minor leagues, but we weren't willing to like fully understand. It was like, oh, this guy's a center fielder and he can do all this too. Yeah, he was playing center, but like he's probably best served in a corner. And that may be how the conversation around Jaison develops as he climbs level by level, where it's like, yeah, he's playing center, but do we want him in center? And that's okay. Like, that's totally fine. We see so many minor league center fielders move into a corner and be really good. there. And, like, I don't think that's going to dock him in the slightest. The thing that I want to see jump is the game power. And, again, he's 18 years old. So there's time.
19, he just turned 19. So he's cooked.
He's cooked. He's done.
Yeah. Born in 2005.
He's done. Yeah.
No, I'm with you, especially because if he is moving to a corner, it does put a little bit more pressure on the bat. But I think there's enough juice in there. Fangraphs will throw out some good comps here and there, and sometimes they put out some great ones. And I was doing some reading up on his stats and everything, and I went through what they'd written up on him. I actually loved their comp for Jaison Chourio. Just saying, like, what the median outcome, like a Robbie Grossman type in left field.
Yeah, I like that.
And because that's a guy that at his peak, could flirt with 20, but even when he's 8 to 10, he's still really productive because he gives you a ton of doubles and he's fast and he does a lot of little things. And again, that's not the ceiling, but that's kind of like that median outcome of what you can maybe expect here. And that's a good outcome. Robbie Grossman had a nice career.
Yeah.
Number 3, Ralphy Velazquez. Jack, they have a lot of your favorites. I'm noticing now. Like, they got a lot of your favorites in the system.
I think I have a Guardian bias. I can't figure it out really, but like, there's something about a team being really good on a low budget for a really long time that makes me like their prospects. And like, call me crazy, but I think the Guardians consistently have a pretty good system. And I think that the Rays consistently have a pretty good system. And guess what? They happen to be good year by year.
Yep. Well, what's funny is this was a kind of uncharacteristic pick by them, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it was.
And we know that there's been a shift in org philosophy to a degree. I'm not saying that they've changed everything, but they've been very open, and we've even talked to players about the desire for more power and being realizing that they have to add some power into the fold here. But it's not like they're just plucking, Joey Gallo types, right? They're not just plucking Spencer Jones types. They are looking for the power bats that don't totally end up on the opposite end of the spectrum for them. Ralphy Velazquez was 18 years old at the start of the season. They put the catching thing on ice very quickly, which is fine because I think it's great for him to be able to focus on hitting. So advanced for a power hitter, out of high school. So advanced. And I think that's why they loved him. It's going to be power over hit at the end of the day, but the hit is pretty good. And like we said, you can see an average hit here. There's potential for 35 homers, I think, if it all comes together. We've seen him already flash 113s as an 18, now 19-year-old. The plate discipline is something to monitor. It was just hard for me to grade that out as a guy that is that young and full season ball, but I've seen him have stretches where he does look more comfortable. He does get a little expansive against fastballs. Teenager. He's been really productive. He's hit the ball really hard. And I mean, it's really easy to get pumped up on what he's doing. And I really, really like the swing mechanics and the way he operates in the box.
He's such like a filled out guy for being that young. And he can convert some of that weight, I'm sure, but frankly, like, it doesn't look like there's much weight that needs to be converted. He just looks like the big kid that was, the best player on the best high school team in the country. And he was on one of the better high school teams in the country. Like, he was a Huntington Beach kid, if I'm not mistaken. Huntington Beach is a high school power. And like, the fact that he dominated as a physically advanced kid in Southern California and jumps into low A and looks physically advanced and looks offensively advanced. I mean, I'm not saying quick riser, but like, it's a subdued conversation when it comes to Las Montes.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, all right, where is he going to run into trouble?
Yeah.
At high A, we'll see.
I'm with you. And I don't think so. I think he's a guy that might actually be a little bit better in high A. What's interesting to me too, is that you look at the EVs already, 106 mile per hour, 90th percentile. Like, we don't have a model or anything, but I can guarantee you any model that a team uses or things like that, if a player that is a young 19 is putting up those EVs, they're going to be at the top of a lot of whatever that model spits out, because you just don't see that from players this young that are also not whiffing at a high clip either. So he's in a rare group of teenage bats that produce plus exit velocities already and are making above average contact. I'm very excited about what they've got going on here, and I'm glad that the Guardians have kind of bucked their trend a bit to go get talented hitters, and Ralphie's exactly that. Number 2, Kyle Manzardo, another guy that, I think fits their new profile, which is, okay, he's got more power, but this is a guy that can make a lot of contact too. Big league debut didn't quite go the way that I think he was hoping. Hasn't gone the way that I think almost anyone has been hoping that's gotten called up, unless your name's like Jackson Merrill or, one or two other guys. It's hard, tough game. Big leagues is particularly hard right now. But Manzardo, man, like we've talked about him so much. I love everything that he has done, how he's progressed as a hit over power guy, tapping into more power, but then I did compromise the hit and then finding that middle ground at the end of last year and in spring training or in the Arizona Fall League when I got to see him live, and then even in spring training. It just seems like he's still figuring out that last piece, which is just succeeding at the big league level. And more particularly, sliders and changeups have been giving him some fits. I think it's a pitch recognition thing. Hopefully that comes along. But other than that, I mean, you can't argue against the swing. You can't argue against where the power's at now because it's plus. And you can't argue about the ability to tap into it in games because he elevates consistently. And he's always had a pretty good approach. It's just, again, picking up those secondary pitches a bit better. And I know right-handed changeups in the bigs really kind of gave him some fits. I think that's going to come along naturally. He's not even 24 yet. This is just a really good hitter.
So strictly at the major league level, plate discipline grade you would throw out on him 30, right? Like he was chasing. He was so out of whack. He was so not like himself. This guy walked 3 times in 87 plate appearances at the major league level. He was expanding because he might have been nervous, and he was like, "Oh, I got to prove that I belong here." Like, and again, I talked about this with Pete Crow Armstrong, and I talked about this with Heston Kjerstad. Like, guys get up at Jackson Holliday is the best example. You get up to a team that's good, and you feel this overwhelming sense of responsibility to be good, to match that level of guys that have been there for 6 years, for 10 years, or that have been dominating for 3, like at Quan. It's like, oh, I'm hitting behind Quan and J-Ram. I need to be really good right away.
Especially at first.
And it's like, okay.
You can't really help them win in like any other way.
Right. And it's like, I'm going to prove my worth by hitting. And if Manzardo felt like that and he was, outside of his comfort zone and he started chasing outside of his comfort zone, like you're taking away from your offensive skill set if you start chasing and you try to hit your weight of value. And it felt like he was trying to hit his weight of value in his first 30 major league games, when in reality, like the value's there because of exactly who you are, man. Like just get back to who you are. He's already killing in Columbus again. I hope when he goes up, he feels a sense of comfort. But again, that is the burden of being a good prospect on a good team.
100%. I think you nailed that. And I think the other aspect is pitchers just kind of went after him, kind of knowing that. And then when they were ahead, like, all right, this guy's pressing. I'm just going to spin him. And sliders had historically given him an issue. And we talked about that going into the year. I'm like, the numbers against sliders are concerning. It's probably the one thing that we're waiting on here to see him, at the big league level. It's probably the one thing the Guardians want to see. And I think that was part of it too, where it's like, I got to hit the fastball early in the count. I got to hit the hanger. And so he kind of hyper aggressive, falls behind. And then that slider is going to come that you can't hit. So it's figuring out everyone's going to have their blue zone, how to mitigate that. And I think instead it was kind of compounding for him. He's going to need to make some adjustments to just get better with the slider recognition and hitting those. But overall, I mean, it's going to come. And now I think it goes back to Columbus knowing exactly what to focus on.
Yeah.
Number 1, I wish we had more to talk about with him, but unfortunately he's been on the shelf. But Chase DeLauter, who, I mean, seeing him in the fall league, we talked about that. I haven't seen a guy hit home runs out closer to his fist than I think what Chase DeLauter did when I caught him in person. Didn't have the best start to the year, but I also think, maybe being banged up was a part of that. Went crazy in spring training.
Crazy.
And then as he started to work back, what was it? Hurt his other foot? Is that what happened? Hurt his ankle?
Yeah.
It's wild. All the foot issues are definitely concerning. All the injuries are definitely concerning, especially with how much he moves in the box and how much pressure is on his feet, given the way that he swings. But when it's all working for him and he's healthy, it's above average hit. It's plus power. It's good plate discipline. He can run. But yeah, I guess we're just kind of waiting on him to be healthy, really, is it. He's 22, though. So fortunately, he's still got some time on his side, and he's already produced through snippets in Double A. But man, like the injury thing is starting to become concerning.
Yeah, but like when he's on the field, he's so clearly one of the best power bats in the minor leagues. Because like you mentioned, he gets to balls and like hits them far when he has no business even grazing a baseball. Like how tight his hands are to his body in the swing if he needs them to be is like something that very few guys can replicate. Nobody can replicate at that high of a speed.
No, well, and that's why he's able to get away with that drift forward, that kind of lungy swing that people don't like. And you've heard me so many times talk about how much I don't like that. But if you are so mechanically efficient with your path and just physically strong, and also can still kind of hold the back hip enough, he's drifting forward, but he's still got enough behind him. There's still enough, torqued back there and coiled. Like clearly he can make it work. And what I love is that I think as he matures and just gets more reps, and remember, he barely played in college because of James Madison and the injuries there and COVID. Like as he gets more comfortable with that, like there might be more to unlock because he's going to be like, wow, I have way more time to decide when I'm not lunging. And it's a lot easier. I have more power when I'm not drifting forward. But the fact that he can produce 90% in zone contact rate with that drift and a 90th percentile of 104 last year, that's adding in the Arizona Fall League. Like that's, again, if you put the XY axis, that's going to be up there with all the top prospects in the game. You add in about a 20% chase rate, such a sound offensive profile. And I think he's only going to get better as he cleans up those mechanics. He really performs despite those inefficiencies. I think people say, oh, those the believers will say, oh, those inefficiencies don't matter. No, they matter, but they aren't a total detriment because of how talented he is. But it would be silly to say that he's some magic exception to the way that everybody else swings the bat. There's no one else that can really do that and fully reach their potential. But I think it's clear that he is so talented that he can hit even with some of those lower half inefficiencies. So if he cleans that up, it's crazy. Look out. And honestly, maybe these injuries may kind of force him to be more quiet with his feet in the box and a little bit more simple.
And we'll see. Like the only way we see those improvements and he gets to the big leagues is availability. And obviously that has been a question since he was drafted in 22. But you know what, man, at the end of the day, like he's been too good on the field to not be the top prospect in this organization.
100%. And hopefully we'll see him back on the field soon.
Yep.
That'll do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We're going to continue to get through the rest of these team top prospect lists, but we'll have a mock draft next week as well. So we'll be talking about that. Very excited to dive into that. All MILB team last episode, if you want to check that out. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will talk to you on Monday.